Don't be an unbelieving believer. And so if there's anybody that knows somebody who misunderstood that this is going to be the second session for the adults as well, get in contact with the people. But I'm just going to go ahead and teach anyway. I'll teach for 3 people. So anyway, the Lord had spoken to me about this generation, and he had asked me if I would be a retriever. In other words, if I would go and retrieve this generation that's being stolen from. And what has happened is a lot of opportunities that we grew up with are not available to this generation for obvious reasons. But the Lord, of course, doesn't play by the rules of this world system. So he always has a way to reach and to meet needs in any kind of situation. For example, it looked like World War II was actually the end of the world. And it looked as though if this continued, that the Antichrist would be moving in and have world dominance. But you could see that God had America as a ram in the thicket, just like with Abraham. Abraham did not have to sacrifice his son because there was a ram there. And this is what God does. In every generation, he provides a way of escape. So with the children, he asked me to do this. And it's a very extensive thing that happened. I literally was operating with faith the whole time. I literally had nothing, and he told me to do everything as though I had everything. Now we have everything. But that simulator right there, I designed that in a week, and within 3 weeks it was built. And we build one a month. So this is the second one. Number 3 and number 4 are almost finished. And they will be shipped out to Dalton, Georgia, and next week, one of them. And then one will be shipped off to Tampa for our Tampa. There'll be a total of 10. 5 of them will be just the regular jet controls. All the different control surfaces, everything about the cockpit will be just for what we have at Warrior Jet, the Phenom 300. Okay, it's not quite like the Phenom 300, but it is a representation of a jet. Then the next one will be a transition fighter jet that the kids will actually go and get checked out in that one as well. It'll have a stick instead of just a regular yoke. And then we can transition to the space program. And so there's a surprise about that. Okay, so when I teach you, I'm really writing curriculum for the children as well. So our homeschooling, everything about our homeschooling, is going to be a lot of the curriculum that we use for our school. It's going to be implemented into the homeschooling curriculum. And then we're going to implement also the science and the math and everything else that's required for homeschooling. So the curriculum will be complete. It will not be copied off of anyone. The people we've hired are called to work for us, but they have been involved with homeschooling even over the state of Florida, and they work for us now. So we're developing our own. This is going to include Water Springs Ranch, which takes in orphan children. So we are tied with them, and I will share this in the regular service, but essentially they have 50 kids that have been returned by the state. And they take them in, and they have homes for them on this ranch. So Warrior Notes is going to be building another home because they need more homes, and purchasing new vans for them that they need. So this is all going to be tied in, right? Yeah, so this is all going to be tied in. So with the kids, I don't know anyone that doesn't like airplanes. I don't know anyone that would think it's cool to fly. So the people that I bought the Phenom 300 from, they also have a mentoring program for pilots that want to transition to the Phenom 300 because it's a very difficult airplane to fly. So they actually charge an exorbitant amount of money to mentor pilots to be able to fly this thing. But they have also talked to me about helping me with my children's program. So even my other pilot is an instructor. So I have two pilots that are instructors, the top Phenom pilots in the world. My pilot as well is an instructor and has flew for Southwest Airlines for 30 years and flew F-16s for 15. He is also going to be helping me with the children's program. What we want to do is scholarship kids to give them at least 10 hours of instruction for free. So we can get them started, and if they're interested, we can scholarship through Warrior Knows to get them on their way. But what it does is it teaches people discipline and accountability. It teaches kids things. And there's a lot of parallels in the spirit realm that I saw when I was with Jesus and I came back. I saw that the reason why he wanted me to be a pilot, because there was a lot of things that were parallel. Things that you would observe here on the earth. There are things that are parallel with aviation as far as how God operates. It is amazing, actually. And so I want everyone in this life to not be an unbelieving believer, because that is really working against yourself. If you are a believer, then you're a called a believer because you believe. But you have to have information and understanding in order to operate in something. So we're not really taught what it is to be a Christian. We're just taught like Bible lessons, and it's almost like we've been processed through just to say that, we taught you, good luck. And there's this feeling that like they just send you out, and I would never send a student out if I didn't feel that they were ready. I wouldn't do that for anything. I wouldn't do that to you. And I don't feel like God would do that to us either. So with the children, we're gonna do these programs. We're gonna have these simulators. We're gonna have a spirit school for the kids on Saturdays, and they're going to have their own little thing. And I've already hired my staff that we staffed and trained them on the simulator, and we're going to have your kids come. They're going to learn a lesson, and then they're going to be in the simulator and get checked out. And if they can do all the requirements, which aren't very hard, but then they get their wings, they get a certificate, and they're on their way. But then they come back and they learn how to fly the fighter jet, which we're designing now. Then they will also be available or made ready to go to space camp. If they want to be a kids camp where they'll learn how to be an astronaut. And we have a surprise today, a surprise guest. We actually have an astronaut here. And so Charlie, just stand up and wave. Charlie Dry he's a space person. He's an astronaut. Okay, so what I want to teach you and the kids as an example of what we're going to be doing on Saturdays, and I wish there were more people here, I guess, that they needed to go eat or whatever, but what I wanted to do was I wanted to show that a lot of times what we are is not really always obvious. Like, we don't always know who we are. I hear it all the time. I heard it at work for 30 years at Southwest Airlines. Every day I was talking to people. And one of the biggest questions that when you talk to people, whether they were flight attendants or pilots or just passengers, there was some main questions that I gathered over the 30 years. And so it really helped me to understand where people are. Because when I went to heaven, I actually went there and was sent back. But when it changed me so much that I actually didn't have any reference points on how I used to be in a lot of ways. I couldn't understand why everybody wasn't like me for a while, because something had happened to me. I tested out with my IQ at 159, and I was 106 before I had this happen. So I could memorize everything, and I could read things upside down. I mean, I could walk in on my boss's desk and read the memos that were on his desk, even though they were facing the wrong way. And I could repeat back what was said at a glance. And I could be shown something and do it. And I could look and reverse engineer things. But I couldn't do that before I went to heaven. I couldn't play instruments before I went to heaven. And I came back and I could pull them out of the box and play them without lessons. Okay, so I know how people think because I talk to people, but I don't always understand why a person calls himself a believer, but then is unbelieving about a lot of things. In other words, they're not fully convinced, right? So what we do is we feel like we should teach the kids some things where it parallels spiritual things. So one of the things that the Lord told me to do is to teach kids that you can't judge things on the surface. So I have a rock here, and this is actually a geode. So actually inside there's this beautiful crystal structures and colorful. I purposely didn't break it open because I have another one that I broke open. But if you look at this and you would find this on the ground, it's just a rock. And, you know, it might be used in your garden. It might be used, paperweight. But if you break it open, it's an amazing thing what you find in it. And you've seen these geodes where they're really pretty. And so I would train the kids to not judge things by the surface and to understand that God put something inside of you that's very beautiful. And even though this is a small one, you could see, I don't know if you could see this or if you can get the camera, at least the people, but it's a beautiful purple structure inside. But it's just a black rock. I don't know if you can see this. But see kids, look, this is just a rock. Look, it's just a rock, but look what's inside. Isn't that beautiful? See, and you would never have known that was inside. You just think it's just a black rock. But when you break it open, some rocks have this inside of them. Isn't that beautiful? And the Lord just showed me that that's how we are. That people on the outside, they look at the outside of us and they don't know what's inside of us. And so this is the kind of things that we'll be teaching the kids in our homeschooling and these programs. So I have, and Pastor Mike and Pastor Ryan, if you could help just pass out, and I think there's some more somewhere. If everybody doesn't get one, we have more. I know I have more somewhere. I'm just missing all that other box, so I'll find it at home. Okay, but what I've done is we've had them cut, these geodes cut. If you can show, let's just show a couple. Like here's cross sections of some of these rocks. So I only have a certain amount of them, and if I don't get one to each person, I am sorry. I'll do the best I can to get some more. But this is one of these rocks that's just sliced, like you'd slice an apple. And look how pretty it is inside. Okay, so that is how God sees us. Is that there's beauty inside of us. There's gifts inside of us, and we need to start to see people the way God sees people. And we need to see the children that they are retrievable in this generation. And so I want to do this, and I just need the help of my partners to do this, because there really is no limit to what we can do. But what happens is I wait until the Lord tells me to do it, and then the money comes in. So I'm not asking you to give money for this. We're going to help the ranch anyway. We're going to build a house for them, and we're going to buy them 4 vans, whether you give or not. I'm just saying, if you want to be involved with what God is doing, then pray about being a partner with us, because this is the kind of thing we're doing. We're doing these kids programs. I saved us a lot of money by designing these simulators ourselves and buying the equipment, and then our staff is able to build these things. We did all the research and the development of them, and then this is what we're going to do. And you know, I'm one of the pilots so the Warrior Notes saves $180,000 a year just because I'm not going to charge Warrior Notes to fly the jet. So there's things that are going on at Warrior Notes where we have people that are already employees that are experts in these kind of fields. And so this is what we're going to do. Okay, so I have a model of our jet. And so this is Warrior Jet. So now this particular airplane is designed to go really fast and really high, and it's so automated that it can actually be flown with just one pilot, which I don't recommend. Because, you know, I think we need all the help we can get with, but this airplane will go to 45,000 feet, and I on the way over here, I passed a Southwest Airlines jet. And it goes really high, really fast, but you can see by the shape of it that it's designed to do that. If you look at the way it looks, it's not blunt. And kids, look at me. Look at how cool this airplane looks. But you can see the shape of it. It's made to go through the air without any resistance. And then it's got good engines on it. And the engines are much more powerful than what you would need. But in an emergency, you would need a powerful engine if you only have one. So this plane will fly with one engine, and it does amazing. And you can just keep flying if you had to. Okay, but God designs each one of us for a purpose. So there are certain airplanes. Have you ever seen kids? Have you ever seen airplanes that are just big and fat? Yeah, okay, that's because they're made to carry stuff inside of them, cargo. So there are cargo airplanes that they're not made to just go fast. They're made to carry things from one place to other. So each airplane has a mission. Does anybody know what a mission is? A mission is an assignment. It's a goal. So each one of the kids, each one of you adults has a mission. So you're not going to all be fast. You're not going to all go high. You're not going to all be able to carry things. But see, each individual has their role in the body. Now, with children, I feel like the education system is wrong. I feel like the education system should be groomed at what the child needs based on what's inside of them already. Did everybody follow that? So even the training program for this, there are certain pilots that already have skills in certain areas. But there are certain things that need to be focused on in the training in order to fly this by itself. So training should be groomed more toward each individual person. Now, that did not happen with me growing up. So when I was in 5th grade, in the science class, 5th grade science class, the class was asked, no one, the science teacher said this, no one has ever answered this in the history of the 20 or 30 years he had been there. Does anybody know what they found in the desert in Albuquerque, outside of Albuquerque, in New Mexico, when they detonated the atomic bomb? What did they find in the desert? And no one could answer it. And I said, well, they found glass. The guy sat down on his desk and he goes, my God. He goes, no one's ever answered that. That's exactly what they found. He goes, why did they find glass? I said, because sand at a high temperature, this is 5th grade, sand at a high temperature, when it is melted, it produces glass. Now, if that man was a true understanding teacher with wisdom, he would immediately put me on a fast track, and I would have been working for NASA. And I wanted to be an aerospace engineer. I was going to the academy to do that. But see, because the system is not set up that way, kids are not discerned for what they have in them to help them with what they need to go to their end result, to their destiny. So society suffers, the church suffers. The same thing with the church. I cannot make somebody an evangelist if they're called to be a teacher. I have to discern what's in them, because it says that God sets in the church some to be apostles, prophets, pastors, teachers, evangelists. And this is set by God. Okay, then the gifts of the Spirit, it says there that the gifts of the Spirit are distributed severally as the Spirit wills. So it's not the will of man either in that. It is actually predetermined. So that's what it says in Corinthians. Okay, so and also in Ephesians I quoted about the fivefold ministry, and it's also mentioned in other places. Okay, so the education system causes people to almost like don't know who they are. I heard it all the time at work. I just don't really know what my purpose is. But these are adults that are professionals. The pay was so good at Southwest Airlines that we had professionals that were flight attendants. And I was working on my doctorate while I was a flight attendant. And everybody around me, I mean, don't be deceived. Those blonde-haired girls are not stupid. They're writing textbooks. They're doing a whole bunch. So I feel like kids these days shouldn't be left out. So they shouldn't be left out of the spirit schools. So the purpose of Warrior Jet is to get our staff from point A to point B as quick as possible, and it's one of the cheapest jets to operate, $1,297 an hour. And it carries 11. We carry 7. Okay, so its goal is to get you there quickly, short field capability. We landed right across the street. Not on the street, but the airport there. And they closed the big runway. And I turned to my instructor and he said, no problem. We can stop in half of that one and we can still take off. So, no problem. We land, we can walk across the street to here. We do that in every city. Every city has a little airport. Don't have to mess with anything. Don't have to be vectored around. Don't have to be in any kind of delay. Okay, it's the same way with us. We all have a mission, and we're made for that. We're made for that particular mission. So you can't be something you're not or someone you're not. So I don't think we should do that to our kids. I think we should allow the Spirit of God. As parents, we need to allow the Spirit of God to teach us and show us what's in our children. And I know how to do that. What you do is you teach them you teach them the Bible, you teach them in the way they should go, and then what you do is you present them with opportunities and you watch where the smile is. You see where their heart is. You see when they light up. You saw little Karina when she wanted a trumpet until we opened the violin, which is what I really bought her, but I wanted her to say what she wanted. I didn't know that she had prayed that I would get to talk to her. She had prayed, her mother's right here, she had prayed that I would get to talk to her, that we would get to talk, and then I would meet her. And the Lord spoke to me about her and said, you know, you're going to give her a violin. But if you notice, I just let her look. And if it was something that wasn't here, I was willing to buy her one of those keyboards. I was going to do it. If she said keyboard, I was going to do it. There's no stopping point with me. But when we opened the violin, I saw her face. You got it? And that's what you got to look for, is it's already within us what we're supposed to do. See, we're believing believers. That's what we do. We believe. And so you got to look at what's inside of you, and that's really who you are. And if you look, everybody does this cookie cutter thing where they process people through an education, and then that education, all it does is cause you to get a general education, but then it causes frustration because it really doesn't help define. How people are defined is by what God had intended for them and what's written about them. That can only be revealed by the Spirit. So you all follow me? Okay, so we start with this, and then we show them that you can keep upgrading and going on until you could actually be an astronaut. Now, this is going to be for everything. I'm going to have, the children's programs will be doctors, all the law enforcement, people in government, the good ones, all kinds of professionals, plumbers, electricians. I'm going to bring everybody in. We're doing kids shows. It's called The Adventures of Warrior Jet. It's a kids show. It's an adventure show. We have a full set already built of our airplane, a full set that holds 14 people, and a cockpit that is fully operable and is actually FAA approved. It's a complete set already built. I literally, for the last 6 months, learned the Phenom 300 Warrior Jet in that simulator before I even got it. I flew 80 hours a month in my own simulator to get me ready for something I didn't have yet. And it showed me something about kids, is that if we put them in situations where Warrior Jet, the Adventures of Warrior Jet, is a group of kids that we're going to glean from all of these spirit schools, they're going to be my co-pilot on the show. And then next week, they're going to be the mechanic. And then the next week, they're going to be serving food. And then the next week, they're going to be working the ticket counter. And I'm going to teach them responsibility and accountability. I'm going to show them that they are important. We're going to go on make-believe missions on Warrior Jet. We're going to have prayer requests that are coming in from all over. And we're going to sit at a table with all the kids, and we're going to say, we're going to pray, and we're going to answer these prayers. And we're going to go, we're going to give Sally, her parents need food. We're going to fly to Oklahoma City, and we're going to give them food. We're going to take prayer requests, and we're going to do on the set a make-believe mission, but then we're actually going to go do it. The kids are going to be part of helping other people. Okay? Then we're going to have professionals that are going to be on the jet that are going to talk to them about if you want to be a doctor or a police officer. We're going to we have an astronaut. He's going to talk to them about being an astronaut. And I'm going to present to them all these different professions, because I want this generation of kids to go out into the marketplace and be believers. I want outside the church. I want them to own the marketplace. I want them to start their own business. We're going to teach kids how to start their own business. We're going to teach kids how to save money and how to manage money. We're going to have complete seasons on geology, biology, finances. Okay? So, if my friends, some of them, they didn't want to fly this jet. They actually are military. So we have military pilots. My other pilot is a military pilot. He flew the F-16 for 15 years. He was a top simulator technician for the F-16 in other countries, as well as an F-16 pilot. He flew for Southwest for 30 years, and then we all retired together. And about a year ago, the Lord spoke to him and said, Kevin's going to be getting a jet and you're going to be his pilot. And he waited a whole 6 months before I called him and said, the Lord told me to call you. We're getting a jet. He goes, I know. The Lord told me. He said, I'm your pilot. And we actually trained together for 6 months in a simulator by faith, knowing that someday we would have Warrior Jet. We actually went through all the training and missions together for 6 months, and you didn't even know about it. 4 days out of the month, we practiced and flew for 8 hours a day in a simulator, going over all the systems, going over all of the, all the systems, all the things that you have to do in training. So that when I went and go and get all of the type ratings and everything, I'm not completely washed out. Okay, we can do that with the kids through total immersion. We can do that with you. That's what we do. If you notice, it's kind of intense what we do here, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's just total immersion because that is how it's done. I did the whole 3-year program from not knowing what a yoke in an airplane was to getting my commercial pilot's license in 9 months. I did the whole thing in 9 months. It was because I totally immersed myself in that environment, and we are made to be that way, I'm telling you. So the kids, I feel like we're doing it wrong. So homeschooling, where you can tailor make everything to your child. And as you discover what's in your child, then you tailor make it so that when they get to their 12th grade level, then they can go right into college and be ready. Because if the people that were in charge of me would have done that, I believe that I would have been way further ahead. I had to go to heaven to get caught up, which not everybody gets to do. But I got to come back and tell you that I saw this, that God made us to be in an environment of total immersion into something, and that it was, you could do months and days. Okay, so this aircraft, one of the newest aircraft, the F-35, this aircraft, when you put the helmet on, you actually can see through the aircraft and see what's underneath you. So it projects by cameras into your helmet. You can look at the cockpit, but you can also see behind you, and you can see underneath you and above you. So when the pilot looks, he can look and see right through the floor, right past his legs, and he can see the topography below him. It has all the threats that are around him. They're all marked. It gives him all his information without having to look at the cockpit. Okay, so this is the technology that's available. This airplane can also be fitted so they can take off in a short takeoff capability, short field, or actually straight up, like the Harrier jet used to. And this one is not that designed. This particular one is the Air Force's one. But I want to present to the kids, this is what's going on. I'm going to treat this generation as though Jesus is not coming back. And I'm going to train these kids up to be the leaders in the next generation. And I'm going to train them to be a good president, a good senator. You know what I mean? I'm going to train the people to be that way. But it's going to have to do with technology. Everything is going to have to do with technology. And so I have to build something like this and present this to be out of the box, because that's where we're going. Kids don't want to sit and watch a film anymore. They want to be able to encounter it. And these kind of opportunities aren't available. I mean, if it wasn't for God's favor, I wouldn't be where I'm at. It's because of who I knew that I got to where I was. Okay, so the kids are the ones that are suffering for what we're going through right now. The whole thing is, it's hard for us parents, but you have no idea. The intent is to abort the whole generation that's coming up. Not just in the womb, but if they do come into this world, the opportunities, it looks like there's no opportunity. And what I found in every generation is this, is that it looks like it's going to end, and it doesn't. And we waste a lot of time watching end-time DVDs and storing food, And then it doesn't happen because God won't let it happen until the harvest comes in. So each generation is actually holding back the Antichrist from coming. And that is the absolute truth. And you know me, if I knew this was it, and we need to wrap it up, and you need to store food, I'd be the first one to say it. And I have said that because bad times did come. But it's cycles. And God doesn't always get his way, so we have to be able to communicate with God in every situation in order to work ourselves through a situation. But he always works it out for our good. So I can't just wait for the Antichrist to take over in the next couple weeks and leave this generation unattended. The Spirit of God is still telling me, no, you do it, you build, you keep those kids engaged. And you discern. So the learning system that I've developed and that I have put towards my staff is that we tailor make it so that they become spiritual giants, but they become marketplace ministers. They own businesses. They have their creative ability to design the next thing. Do you get it? We can't just let it go. This has happened so many other times. People that have gone on to be with the Lord, they would tell you, don't let this deceive you. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't give up. Keep investing in your kids. You got to treat it as though we're going on another couple 100 years. Because you don't know the time and the season that he's coming back. Jesus doesn't know it, so you don't know it. We cannot forfeit these kids. Okay, so anyway, we're going to have the kids that were chosen here in just a little bit. Just a couple minutes, I'm going to have them report up here, and we're going to put them through the simulator. And what they're going to learn is that when you put certain inputs into something, you get a certain thing out of it. And here is where the reaping and sowing, that God's laws that are in this realm, is that you put something in and you get something out. It's the way, it's the seed time and harvest. It is the way, it says that God is not mocked. A man will reap what he sows. In other words, God is not going to be mocked by you saying, well, I sowed and I didn't reap. Or I sowed this, but I got this. That's what that scripture verse is meant to be. You do not, your life should not mock God. Okay, so if there is something wrong, I teach the kids, if there's something wrong, then you go through a checklist to see what the origin of it is. To train yourselves. You as adults, if you start asking questions, you can isolate it, and I'm telling you what, it's not going to be God's fault. This is the thing that I want to teach the kids, and I want to teach you, is that it's not going to be God's fault, ever. It's never going to be God's fault. And if you think that there's a discrepancy in your life, when you get to heaven, you will not have the boldness to confront Jesus about him being wrong about anything. It will not happen. Because there's such a fear of the Lord in heaven that has been lost down here. But it doesn't change anything. So I believe that if we bring the children up in the fear of the Lord, and if we teach them that God is not going to be wrong, and that if there's something wrong, that you need to go to him and turn yourself in and then let him give the solution to it and work it out. Emergencies in an airplane don't have to turn into catastrophic events. A lot of things, and here's a pilot right here, he'll tell you, most things do not just happen. They work themselves into something. And if you listen to what happens in things that we hear about, it starts with something else, something small. It works into it. Usually it's not a catastrophic thing that happens. It sometimes happens, but it's usually something that we do not tend to the right way to begin with. And I just took a check ride with an FAA inspector. And all he did, I mean, I thought for 5 hours I was gonna get this rating, but what he said is, no, I'm more concerned about are you a safe pilot? And so you have shown that to me. He said, you passed because you showed me that you're conscientious. And it was amazing because I thought I had to do all these different these tasks and pass them. He said, no. He said, we're looking for people that are proactive and safe, thinking ahead. And then the Lord spoke to me and he said, okay, when you do this spirit school and you have the kids up here and you're talking to the parents, because this isn't even the kids program, I'm kind of including them in on it to show you what we're going to do. But I started to see that if we have the right goals in mind about our children, if we think about how God would think about them, like what does God have written about them? What is God's goal? What was in his heart when he breathed your child into existence in your womb? Then you go to that and then you work backwards to now. You go to the future, which is really something that happened already to God, and you find out what your child has in them, that God has already designed the books that have been written about them. And then you take them on that journey and you make them excellent according to their giftings. And it's the same way with all of you, all of us. God does not require me to be something I'm not. And I'm not talking about just a general being generally a Christian. I'm talking about I have a track that I need to stay on. And I notice that people in ministry, they get off. They get off their track. It's like a sweet spot that they're in. And then they stray because they're looking at something else that's working or whatever. And they get off of what is really in them. And it becomes more about the money or whatever. It becomes about other things rather than like what God told you to do. And I found in heaven that if you stay with what in your life with what you are supposed to do, that the provision always comes. What it is that you're focusing and you're getting off on something else that God has not told you to do, and he doesn't bless that. Because it's not part of his plan. Because if you don't do what you're called to do, it hurts everybody. If everybody was a plumber and we had no electricians, I'm glad that some people want to be surgeons, because I don't want to do that. I was a flight attendant for 30 years when I could fly an airplane. I'm so glad that people want to be flight attendants, because I don't want to be one of those. I've never one day wanted to be a flight attendant, ever. I want to be a pilot. But I never was allowed to do that. But now I got it all. Okay, so I want to do that for people. That's why we have the spirit schools, is essentially we create an atmosphere where you can grow and encounter God's glory in a meeting corporately, and then you can start to see things about yourself, and it starts to cause you to operate in what happened to me. So what happened to me, of course, I had this impartation from heaven. I saw things that I probably would have taken 300 years of earth life to figure it out. But when I came back, I just stayed on that track, and it started to influence others. So others can start to operate in it, where it might take them a long time. I mean, I've been walking with the Lord 41 years. I'm just now seeing some of the things that I've been believing for all those years, just in the last month. But there's an impartation with someone who has already plowed and gone through that. And I believe that you as parents can encounter this, and then you transfer it to your children to where they don't know anything else. I mean, I have friends, they've never given them certain foods, and they love carrots because that's all they've ever gotten. Just like a bunch of rabbits. But see, the kids don't know anything else. And I started to think about this. It's like, what if we didn't have consciousness of sin? What if we didn't know the options? What if we were just taught the right path and just focus on the children and bringing them into a place where they can fulfill God's plan? So thanks for joining me. We're going to do the simulator now. You guys are free to go until 2 o'clock. We're going to meet back for the next session. And those kids that are registered, I'm going to give it to my staff, and they're going to handle it. And we're going to put them in the simulator now, and then they're going to get their certificate, and then we're going to have a graduation session coming up. But I want Charlie to just come up here for a couple minutes. Charlie, he has taken it to the next level that I won't have to. He was an astronaut, and he has designed a kids program that will take the kids past what we're doing and actually take them to space camp. So Charlie, come up here. Thank you for joining us. And just a couple minutes, just greet the people. There you go.
There I go. It's my time.
It's your time.
First of all, I want to say this, that you kids, I'm watching you guys, and I remember when I was one of you. And I was from a little bitty town in Oklahoma called Tishomingo. And I built an airplane out of egg crates. And I flew that airplane all over the world in my backyard. That's where I got started. I knew I wanted to do this, didn't know how I was going to get here, but I knew I wanted to get it. But it starts right here, what Kevin's saying today. If these kids think about it and they dream about it, let them dream. Let them dream their big dreams, because that's where it starts. You don't cut them off. You don't say, I can't afford it. I can't do anything. Listen, I didn't have a dime. I had to play ball. I had to do everything to get through school. And then when I got through school, hallelujah, I got drafted into the Army. I didn't have any choice. So I went to the Army for a while and flew helicopters. And anyway, I'm just saying, you kids, it's tough, and you got to get it in your head. You're the decision maker. We can teach you. We can almost basically program you, but it's got to be your choice, and you got to want it, because some kid in this room right here will probably, without a question of doubt, be going to Mars. And if you think we're not going, you better think again. Because we are going. I have seen it. I know we're going. And this is the age right here. By the time you guys get up there, they'll do it. And so I am so grateful to be a part of this team. We've got a lot of things we're going to do. I've been doing space camps for 20 years with kids. And I know how it is, believe me. So I want to thank you very much, and I'll, at this time, turn it back over to Kevin, and let's go get some training.
Thank you, sir.
Kevin's gone.
Now, kids, who is ready to go tell all their friends that they met a real astronaut? Pretty cool, huh? So this is what we need to do. If you have the green armband, kiddos, I want you to come over here with at least one of your parents, because we're going to get the simulator started. Everybody else, we were so glad you guys came, and we just love hearing Dr. Zadai's heart and what we're doing at Warrior Notes. Amen.